inspirationally, tactically, what you saw? Is there anything that you can take from Anderson's performance and the way he approached that?
It's just you have to be who you are. We are individual. We're different. Everyone has your own story. He was boxing a guy. He's like not even 10% of Oscar. I'm boxing a real boxer. I'm boxing the best boxer of all time. So I'm boxing a guy who really know how to move and how to execute. So it's hard to compare apples to apples. So in that's frustration when you come out to that. So the idea of me focus on me, focus in my strength, develop my strength, and I know my strength. I'm a guy who can move, who can box. I used to box Anderson Silva. I used to whip him. He's the most afraid guy. I promise he will never want to box me. I promise. And if he does, I will love it. But I promise because I know how to box. I spent 1 year in Cuba training with all the Cubans. So I learned the art of boxing. The art of boxing is like you have to move your feet. You have to execute. You got to have a great jab. Your jab, everything runs through your jab. So it's about matching. It's like chess. So and the way I box is just differently. I'm looking for the angles. My punches are sometimes can be awkward because I adapt all the martial arts into my boxing.
Is this fight with Oscar? Is this a one-off, Vítor, or should we expect you to continue doing more boxing after this?
I'm looking for great opponents. Holyfield is one of them. Triller is trying to make that fight. I'm looking to fight the best guys. I'm ready to step. This you guys have to understand. This is not exhibition. He's not a YouTuber here. He's a legacy. It's a generation thing. We're not talking about guys going there and just putting up a freaking show that is no meaning. That is no legacy, and that's what Mayweather and the other kid, with one loss and 0 wins. How embarrassing this for a fighter to fight a guy like that. A guy like Mayweather, a great boxer. So I take respect for Oscar. Oscar's jumping to fight one of the fierce men of MMA history. So this is a real fight, and with real fighters, with real history, with legacy. It's a legendary fight. You cannot miss it. It's putting generation in the same room. What Triller has been done, never been done in entertaining in the whole world. They're putting a show that is pleasing the grandkids, the sons. So you're putting everyone in one room. You can be watching. Your kids can be watching your PlayStation and watching the fights with your friends in their room, and you have your sons and your grandkids. So everyone at the same house. So I have all the respect for Ryan and Triller team that putting this amazing thing that I promise you guys, September 11th is going to be a week the guys will never forget.
Vito, what was it like getting this fight? Describe the process. When were you approached about it?
A picture came into my mind, the word legacy. That's the only word I see was legacy and generation. It's like they're putting up two guys who opened the Red Sea on their sports, thinking about going back. If you rewind what Oscar did, he's not just a world champion in boxing, he's an Olympic champion. He became the first boxer to become a promoter. He discovered many other guys. So he literally shifting the industry into two totally different direction. And what I did for the sport, I opened the Red Sea, I opened markets in Brazil, Russia, and places like never done before. So we're colliding in a boxing event. And by the way, it's not exhibition, it's a real fight. So this is a legendary in generations. This is like people calling me and saying, wow, who made that? Who was the people who can make that? And I see truly Ryan is giving to the fans and to the people, said, I can make something that never been done before. So you have to reserve the whole week, not just one day, the whole week. You guys got to participate on this.
Can you discuss more your experience in Cuba, training with boxing? Obviously the Cuban boxing tradition is
amazing.
Excellent.
Until today, you guys know Sullivan Barrera we train all. I was helping him for his fight, so I trained with Solis, I trained with Imbudiao, I trained Felix Savon was kind of leaving the team back in the day. So I had an amazing experience to understanding the distancing, the how they box, the Cuban boxing. It's equivalent is what they did in Russia. So it's like now style. You have the Puerto Rican, you have the Mexican. So it's pretty fun. So example, when I study Oscar, he's very square. He's a lefty. People don't know. I know he's a lefty, but he become awkward. So his jab, it's a very powerful tool because he's a lefty in a sense. So, but he's square, so has open over there. So it's a lot of things. Boxing, it's you study. I study the feet. I look into the feet, how their feet are. You know, they're open. The organs are open. You know, I'm looking for your body. You know, I heard he wants to come into my body, so I would love that fight. So it's gonna be interesting. And like I said, I'm a killer. Every time I try to fight out of my instincts. I didn't win. So if a lion trying to become another type of animal, he loses his strength. So Oscar has his strength, Belfort has his strength. We're working our strength is who can prevail. That's why you guys cannot miss this fight. This is going to be, I think, the fight of the century, no doubt about it.
He's mentioning that, you know, you guys are going to get down. Can you speak for him as well?
You have two guys with big huevos. You know, they have cojones. You know, they're fighters. They're not YouTubers. They're not we are entertainers, but we're entertainers for the real things. You know, I remember Oscar. You know, Oscar changed boxing. Oscar changed boxing. You guys got to remember, he changed the way boxing is. If it wasn't for Oscar, Mayweather wouldn't exist. If it wasn't for Belfort, McGregor wouldn't exist. It's guys that change the scope. It's literally, it's like, everybody knows the Red Sea, you know? If it wasn't for Moses snapping in with faith and opening that Red Sea, they would die on that desert. So I see us as a Red Sea open. We open the Red Sea right now, but right now what we're doing, we open the Red Sea, we're putting a ring in the middle, and the show is on, Thriller. So you cannot miss that.
Vito, I gotta ask you this. How much motivation do you take from Anderson Silva beating Chavez Jr.?
My motivation doesn't come from no man. If your motivation comes from somebody else, you're a failure. You can only be motivated by you. It's an individual. And today, everybody's a life coach. It's funny, everybody's an expert. If you read the social media, it's everybody knows and now everybody expert in Bitcoin. Everybody's an expert in everything. So you got to know what you do, what you're good at, and what you're not good at. So my motivation comes from knowing who I am, my identity. You know, what I have to work on is stick with me, and in double, I call it the double of a letter. Me, when you flip the M, become we. If you don't have a team, you cannot win.
Oscar gave you a huge compliment. I just asked him what fighter in his history do you remind him of? And he said Bernard Hopkins and Mayorga. What do you think about that?
It's like this, man. Coming from Oscar, you know, he's like everything that comes from Oscar. You know, he knows. He knows boxing from inside and out. And a lot of boxers, they just know inside. He knows inside and out. Oscar is a master of a boxing. So I'm fighting a master. So I gotta watch for everything he does. You know, he's sneaky. He knows. You know, he looked at the place and he used his hand. So I'm going to his world, and it's like I'm going to his jungle. So I really gotta make my feet ready, stay balanced, stay calm, get collective, understand that it's gonna be a war, but in the end of the day, it's a legacy. We're doing this with a legacy purpose and generation purpose. So never been done before. It's a historical moment for combat sport in general.
Oscar said before this that he described it as the fight's going to be hell, but he's ready to go to hell and back. How much would you savor it if Oscar's willing to stand in the pocket and trade with you in this fight?
Yeah, I believe, you know, if he does so, he knows what's going to be there. He explained it. So I don't see as hell. I don't like hell. Hell is a place of negativity. I see as joy. For me, stay in the pocket is joyful. I love, you know, when I was in the pocket with Sulaiman Bahira, I was in the pocket with a lot of sparring partners fighting me. I love it. It's a great, so remember, it's if you don't have joy in what you do is a burden. So I describe hell as a negative, and I don't let nothing come negative into my mind. I'm looking for war. I'm excited for it. You know, it's like this. If a Navy SEAL are not excited to go overseas, the probability he comes in a coffin is huge. So I'm looking at this as a heavenly place for me, is to stay on the pocket with Oscar.
You're looking in great shape. The jacket barely fits you.
Yeah, I took that jacket for my son. So
Are you still training any mixed martial arts, like on the side, or is it everything 100% boxing right now?
if you understand my life, I have 3 amazing athletes in my 3 amazing kids, an amazing wife. My son is the #1 quarterback in the nation. My daughter is the #1 outside hitter in the nation volleyball, and my other daughter is the #1 gymnast in the East Coast. So I train them since they're young. In my house, it's like this. We are habit human beings. You do what you do daily. You eat, you drink, you think. You are your thoughts, not just your food. What you put it, but also our most important thing is what you think of yourself. So when I think of myself, I have the same integrity of walking in this room here that I have the same integrity when I walk into my house. So I'm the same guy everywhere. So one of my daughters and my son say, Dad, you know what I like about you? A lot of athletes there have to have different hats. You know, they are one person, but they actually live in another double life called double agent. Say, Dad, you have integrity. And I say, son, when you have integrity, you'll be successful in anything you do. So that's my roles. So we are living habits. So my life is training. So this is my hobby. It's a consequence of my hobby. I don't work one day of my life. And I encourage you, all of you guys, if you're holding this camera, make this your hobby. Promise you guys are gonna become the best reporter of all time. If you're in school, you have to be in school. Make school your hobby. Make school because you're gonna retain, because you're spending that time in your school. And that's the problem with kids today. They're doing what they hate to do. They become accounting and want to become marketing. So make sure you live your dream, not your parents' dream. Make sure your parents support your dream. So I encourage parents, I encourage educators, teachers, encourage whoever's sitting of you to fall in love with that. If you fall in love with the process, I promise the reward is great.
Vito, what was first for you? Was it MMA, or did you learn to box first?
I live in a very tough area in Brazil, and back in the day it was vale tudo, everything goes. And I remember I was putting people down on the street. It was concrete, so we have to go to this, participate on that gang that we protect the neighborhood. You have to go through some fights, and our mouthpiece was like a toilet paper. We put wet toilet paper in the nose and in the mouth, and we spar. And people take people down. And the guy said, Victor, you know, if you go to Vale Tudo and you learn how to strike, what about you become the first jiu-jitsu guy who learned how to strike? And I become a boxer. And I start boxing in this place, under the building that we should live. And they had the Brazilian champion. I was, back in the day, it was 14. Put the gloves, they teach me, say, okay, let's spar. Next week, we're gonna spar. I came. I threw a left cross, I knocked the Brazilian champion, a male adult. They look at me and say, you're gonna be a champion. So they took me to the gym, to the boxing gym with the favelas of Brazil. I used to train there. And I was doing that with champions. And they say, you're gonna become one of the best athletes. And then that's what I brought to MMA. But I believe I remember I had a chance to become a professional boxer after my Tank Abbott's fight. You know, my mom was approached, back in the day, my mom was my agent, and they approached by a lawyer from, I forgot, William Morris. They brought me Muhammad Ali to have lunch. So he came out of my room, Muhammad Ali jabbing, and then, wow, my dream. And then these guys lured me out for this millionaire contract, but had a lot of things in the contract. So I was kind of street smart. And then I remember I asked the question at lunch. I said, okay, what do you guys want me to do? I said, we want you to become boxer, but you're gonna have to leave MMA. And I was in the rise, and I was watching. My dream is to see MMA big. UFC was gonna be big. And then you have to leave your sport to become a boxer. I said, no, if I have to leave that, that's not right with my dream. I came here for that, and I want to see MMA big. And I said, can I do both? They say no. And they said, but you don't want this $1 million this $2 million contract. I say, okay, but you have the money now? And no. And because people don't know, but when you sign the money, a promoter have to pay for the other opponent. It's like it's a different business style. That I want to know how much I'm making, how much I'm paying tax. I was street smart, and I saw, okay, if you don't have the money now, and if I have to do this, I stick with what I'm doing is better. So I have to choose between both. And that was the dream. Like, I remember this has happened a long time ago. I was like 19, 20 years old. And here I am, a couple of years later, fighting the greatest boxer of all time. In the place that I used to train 2 blocks from here. In this gym that was Sugar Ray Mosley. I saw him coming up. I saw him training with his father. And they trying to convince me to become a boxer. And this has happened. This is a reality. We're in Staples Center. So, so whatever you dream and cherish your dream, make sure don't let nobody put sand in your dream. Just work hard.
Vito, you mentioned your kids. What did they say about you coming back here?
They're excited, man. They're excited. Everybody in the house in the diet, so they don't act so. Right now I call my son, he's eating my food. I say, you eating my food. You forgot your food, Dad. I gotta eat your food. It's gonna get bad. I say, no. So it's a fun. They support me so much, training every day. It's so the day I'm fighting Oscar, my son has one of the most important games I'm gonna have to watch online. But it's for a good reason, and next day he will be here.
Oscar said he has a 3-fight plan. You're the first one. Okay, your business gets tomorrow. What's your plan? Is it 3 fights, 1 fight?
10 fights.
10 fights. Anybody you want to fight in boxing right now?
So right now, Holyfield, get over, man. Come, beat the Phenom. We fight you December. I'm ready for you in December.
Evander.
We're gonna have so many guys out there, but we have guys that I want to make legendary legacy fights, guys that paved their way, not just here. We're not trying to sell tickets. We're trying to break records. Triller, Ryan, we're not trying to sell tickets. It's important for you to know we're trying to break records. We're trying to getting generations together. Maybe you don't have time with your grandparents. That's gonna be the time. Triller's gonna reserve. Listen, the day of the fight, a couple of days, you guys are gonna have the full week of entertaining where you can spend time with generation in your house, inviting your friends. It's gonna be, I cannot say anything more, but it's gonna be life-changing experience for all of us, including me and Oscar.
Should MMA promotions or big like UFC, Bellator, should they be allowing fighters to do both sports at the same time?
Who am I to tell what all the business is supposed to be doing? It's like, if I can tell what I think, I want people to hire me. It has so my experience and my knowledge costs a lot of money. I always telling people, what's the difference between a lawyer whose fee is $500 and the one is $100? Both know what they're reading, both know how they approach, but what's the difference? Experience. Experience is the difference. So I save my experience to feed Triller, feed Ryan teams, because I believe we are breaking and we are bringing fighters to our team, because in the end of the day, people want to get more paid, but it's not just get paid. It's just like how sustainable your business model. How you wanna approach your business in the sense of your identity, who you are as a fighter, who you are as a businessman. Because in the end of the day, we all businessmen. We all have to go back and pay our taxes, raise our kids. So it's how called the business proposition. I think Truly is in a very good way right now.
Who are some of your favorite fighters